You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We are coming to you from the Sun Prairie Community Radio Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Cademan, business coach at Draw In Customers Business Coaching and author of the Bold Business Book, available on Amazon. Today, we are welcoming / preparing to grill, and I suppose we'll learn from Ryan Martin of Ryan Martin Magic. My good man, Ryan, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling awesome.
That is what
I'm so glad we were able to make this happen.
Finally, right?
Yes.
Yay! So tell me a little bit, just tell the public, just in the off chance that they don't know who you are and what you do. What do you do?
My name is Ryan Martin. I do magic professionally, and I do motivational speaking as well.
Rock and roll.
All over the place. Iowa, Illinois, Chicago, San Diego, California, Canada, Orlando. Trade shows.
Oh, you're going all over the place.
Yeah, that's the best part is when people see me someplace, they're like, hey, I'm here for a specific reason to attend this event, but I want you to perform at my party all the way in, wherever it is, Texas or, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's where the value is.
So tell me what kind of magic do you typically do? Because when I think of magic, there's everything from sawing people in half, there's cards.
There's so many different aspects of magic, but for me, I like to focus on cards, coins, magic up close that happens in the spectator's hands.
Okay,
that's really powerful. And what sets me apart from other magicians is I focus on the people. And the experience more than myself, because it's about them. It's about them being amazed and inspired. And that goes with being hired to do close-up for a couple hours. Or being hired to do a big stage show somewhere, or whether it's parlor magic. And it's customized.
All right. So how long have you been doing this on your own? Like as a business and not as a hobby? Okay. So I imagine, did this start as a hobby and then just kind of more or less converted?
No, it started as an obsession.
Fantastic there, I like that.
I'm not kidding. It started as, it took my dad long enough to buy me a magic set. Right? Yeah. And finally, when I was 13 or 14, he bought me a magic set, and I was obsessed. I'd watch the DVD. I was amazed. I'd do those little box tricks or the dice or the multiplying balls and the cards. And even though it was simple, I'd amaze my friends with it. And I was a really shy kid, right? I'd go to school and I wouldn't talk to anybody, and I would try to get, A's or B's or sometimes C's, and that would be it in middle school or high school in that situation. But magic took me from a place of being the unknown kid who's shy, who wanted a girlfriend but never got one. That's another story. And then I was able to I was able to bring the kids into this group, and they would be being amazed by just these simple tricks. This was back in 2008, 2007. But they were blown away, and it took me out of my comfort zone to be like, wow, I'm like the secretly popular kid when I bring out a deck of cards.
Nice. All right.
And after that, it was just a complete obsession, 8 to 9 hours a day practicing every single day. Locked in my room. Nothing else. I'm like, Mom, I swear it's a magic book. You know what I mean? That's
So you're doing you're just learning obsession because you saw that you could get rewarded for that.
Well, a long time ago when I was a little kid, I would see like David Copperfield, or I'd see magic on TV, and I always loved it. But I didn't get really into it and obsessed until my dad actually bought me a set, and later bought me a DVD and another magic DVD and some books, and I was able to teach myself. And after I taught myself, I was really thankful that my father paid for a magic camp for me to go to.
There's a magic camp?
Yeah, there used to be. That was in Canada, and I spent a whole week studying with some of the best magicians in the world. They taught me the best ways to do magic, and that sort of launched me into having some Skype lessons with them from some of my favorite magicians for the next year or so. And that helped, skyrocket me to buy books and create my own effects. And how do I build my business with restaurants and shows and clients. And it's all because I had such amazing parents that supported me with that. And
that's awesome.
Nowadays, parents are like, why are you doing magic tricks? Go to college.
Some, not all, but
that's true though. When you have parents that support you, and it's great nowadays. It's actually a lot more common nowadays than it was, of course, back when you grew up, which is, of course, you're only like a couple years younger than me. So there you go.
Yeah, right.
And because nowadays, this is the incredible part. You can literally make money doing almost anything nowadays. Like if you want to talk about like freaking Pokemon for a living. You can go do that.
Very well on YouTube, right?
Do you know what I mean? YouTube.
So I'll tell you a story.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll tell you a story. I was teaching through Junior Achievement some second graders.
Yep.
Last week, Tuesday, right? There's a group of second graders, and we're talking about community and jobs. And I said, I just went around the room. What do you want to be when you grow up, right? They had their little cards that I passed out with jobs like baker and accounting.
Right. YouTuber, absolutely.
Out of 15 kids, 2 of them wanted to be YouTuber. And then I went into this whole thing like, okay, what's a YouTuber? And they're like, person that does videos. Great. How do you make money on that? YouTube pays you.
Advertisement.
They didn't know that. They didn't know that. So they said, YouTube pays you. Great. Where does YouTube get the money? The bank. Great. Where does the bank get the money? And they're like, and I just got them in this little cycle.
No,
they had no idea, right? They had no idea. So we had explained. So the teacher and I had to explain to them. These are second graders, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't know everything about the world, right?
That's so interesting.
But 2 out of 15 said YouTubers. Not one person was like welder. No one said astronaut, which I'm like, when I was a kid, that was kind of the thing. Mm-hmm. Race car driver, astronaut. There was no professional sports. There was no professional, like, famous person outside of YouTuber.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, I weep for the world. Because people are talking about, like, Pokemon or something like that, and it's not necessarily contributing in any admirable way.
Well, what's interesting about that is the time that we live in.
Where, totally true.
You know, where are people's attention going?
Right. So it's interesting because I'm like, oh, man. I don't like what is going to happen in 20 years when you guys are ruling the world.
That's why you need to connect with every audience, whether it be young people, old people. And for me, it is actually everybody. I mean, most of the time I do get hired by people who are, 35 and older.
Sure.
I get hired by that. Mm-hmm. But most of my following is from people who are 40 years and way younger.
Sure.
Like all the way down to like 10 years old who follow me every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's going to pay me dividends in the long run when I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s.
Certainly.
Because they'll still be around. They'll still be following what I'm doing. And it's always changing and growing.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a story. I guess if we go back to you in high school, learning the card tricks, doing the camp. When was the camp? Was that high school?
When I was almost 18.
Okay. So at what point did you figure I'm going to start making money at this?
When I was about 15.
15. You decided.
I decided.
I'm going to learn this so that I can run a business on it, go beyond a hobby.
Yeah. And real quick, I'm going to tell you about literally I grew up from nothing.
Okay.
I'm not even kidding about this. I didn't know about success. I didn't know about investments. I didn't even know about getting a great big job.
Okay.
I wanted to do magic because I loved the feeling of being amazed and inspired from magic and knowing that there's something beyond what people think is possible.
Sure.
People think it's impossible, but it's only maybe improbable.
Sure. It's perception.
The perception of, is this possible? Is this not? How can I create it to make it amazing for my audience?
Sure.
So I took that from when I was super young, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to make people feel great and empowered and amaze them with this stuff that I've practiced a lot with. And I took that, and I grew up in Tomahawk, Wisconsin. I don't know if you've ever been to Tomahawk.
I have not. I couldn't even tell you where it is.
Yeah, a lot of hunting and fishing, which I did one of, but mostly neither of.
Okay.
And it took me from, my dad, he worked super, super hard. Like 70-hour weeks, to make not enough money.
Sure.
We were living paycheck to paycheck. It wasn't anything.
Trading time for money is not an ideal proposition, right?
No, it's not. And especially, when people realize, in the next couple of years that you don't have to do that anymore. And if you were to actually take the time and effort to put into how can I make money passively in stuff that I actually really love to do. And I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm just saying you need to do it.
Yep.
We finally moved to Reedsburg.
Okay, from Tomahawk to Reedsburg.
Where I have a much better place now
Okay.
than what I did grow up in Reedsburg.
Okay.
I was about 16 when we moved to Reedsburg. I started performing for real people. And I started on the street, like hard.
All right.
I was hustling, doing magic on the street, for tips. And then it worked into building a business off that. I got a restaurant. They didn't pay me.
Oh.
And I built, and next year, then they said, wow, we got to pay this guy. They paid me a little bit.
Okay.
That guy left. And then the next year after that, they said, oh, we can't afford you. And I got let go.
Gotcha. So the first time that they didn't pay you, was that a mutual agreement? Or that was just...
That was just do magic and have fun.
Okay. Okay. So here's an audience, have fun. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. So it wasn't that they owed you money necessarily.
No.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
And that was it. That was my training grounds for doing magic for real people.
Nice.
Made tons of mistakes,
Sure.
as you do. How to approach a table, how to not approach a table. And it starts small. It starts so small, but
Sure.
it can go so big. I mean, people underestimate, first of all, people overestimate what they can do, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Absolutely.
Like, what they can do in 10 years is enormous to what they think they can do in a year. And that's how it is for a lot of stuff. For me, when I started in that restaurant, that was the training grounds to then do gigs and weddings and big corporate shows.
Sure.
It was so difficult.
Okay. All right.
And there were people who are like, yeah, that's nice, kid, but can you just leave the table right now?
Take a
can
walk.
you get out of here?
Family.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can you get out of here? And I now know how to deal with that sort of thing, and I almost never get refused.
All right.
Because when I walk up, it's just the persona. It's how like, wow, this guy's the real deal.
Sure. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do more shows than I do restaurants now.
Okay.
Because of that growth. The best thing that happened to me is I got let go of that restaurant I started in.
So then you had to find your own gigs.
Yep. When I went to Vegas for my honeymoon and my birthday party.
Yeah. Nice. Sounds like fun.
Yep. And I had my birthday in Vegas, honeymoon, all that crazy stuff. I come back with like literally, like almost like not even $2,000.
All right.
And me and my wife were freaking out because we're like, how are we going to pay the rent? How are we going to do all this stuff?
Sure.
And I was scared. I mean, like I was at the point of tears.
Okay.
Because I lost like literally 75% of my entire income. I mean, I had a Thursday, I had a Magic Monday, but literally the Friday and Saturday was gone.
All right.
Because somebody came in who didn't know and respect that I was bringing people in the restaurant to come and see me.
Sure. Fair.
Right? But I look back at it and I'm like, this is the best thing that ever happened to me, because after that, I started cold calling restaurants. I started getting little gigs here and there. I would cold call these restaurants and then by that time, sometimes I was doing a couple days a week,
Sure.
Just for free, just to make tips to be able to pay the rent. And I was, and then the next 6 months, I finally started getting paid and I didn't have to do it just for tips anymore.
Yeah.
And just cold calling in between phone calls, crying in between phone calls because I couldn't do it. My dad couldn't even help me out because he didn't even have the money.
All right. Sure.
And I was there just trying my best with massive action.
Sure.
If anybody wants to know how to grow their business, it's do everything. There's not one thing. It's called massive action.
Sure.
You're going to do cold calling. You're going to do Facebook. You're going to do advertising. You're going to do Snapchat. You're going to do Instagram. You're going to do all that stuff.
Sure.
Because there's no other choice.
It's endless sales and awareness, right? Is that the name of the game?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
massive action. That's the only way you can do it. If you're not making phone calls, you're losing sales.
Sure. Fair. 'Cause
Right?
if you don't have a yes, you got a bunch of no's, right?
But you need to think about where is your time and attention going, and how to it's opportunity cost.
Sure.
Like if I'm doing a show, is that worth more than making all these phone calls, or vice versa? And you
Sure.
have to balance that. And we'll get into that in the next couple minutes.
Absolutely.
But after I did that, I slowly started to fill these spots. And then the next year, I was doing some gigs, and I was actually able to stay on it and sustain and be able to pay my bills
Okay.
with that massive action and
Sure.
grow from that.
Okay.
And it started small, but then it got bigger. Sorry, do you have a
I do.
question?
I have a question
Go
there.
ahead.
So in regards to your, you have some financial rocky road, right?
Yeah.
Not uncommon for a business that's starting up. So do you consider that, did that help you get hungry to actually make those calls? Or did you want
I didn't have a choice.
Did you want to grow your business? Like, was it purely a financial thing? Like, this is either
I
going to
wanted to
happen
do
or...
both.
Okay.
I needed the money, and I needed to grow my business at the same time.
Did you ever think about going to get a day job?
Hell no.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. High five.
No, that's... Because, you know what's crazy is once every 2 months, people who don't know me and what I'm all about,
Sure.
they're like, so what's your day job?
Oh,
And I'm like,
sure. Like you're a stand-up
okay,
comedian
I'm
that has to...
I'm sorry. Am I not good enough?
Sure,
Like,
right?
like I feel bad. I'm like, no, I do this 7 days a week for a living. That's why I always say it. That's why it's really rare for people to ask me that.
Right.
Because I constantly say I do this for a living 7 days a week professionally. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, in another universe, let's say in another universe, if I was to get a day job in another universe, which I would never do, it would be just a small, I mean, it's just, okay, honestly, if magic entertainment did not exist, like it wasn't even a thing,
like it disappeared,
that people could get, like it just disappeared, whatever. If it wasn't even a thing to get paid for, I would be a salesman in some other kind of whatever it be with timeshare real estate,
whatever,
to help people with that,
and
that would be my thing. But I love to amaze and inspire people, and that's what getting paid to do public speeches, getting paid to do magic shows. I do some consulting as well for other small businesses, and I love doing that so much, way more than anything else I could think about.
So it goes beyond just as a business; it becomes a passion to a point.
But it is. That's the only thing. It's the only thing that exists. It's the only thing that you can do. It's the only thing that you feel fulfilled about. Happiness and fulfillment comes from providing positive impact to the world with what you're doing.
Agreed. Totally agreed. So tell me, you got married.
Yep.
So that means that you were doing magic before you met your wife, right?
Yep.
Okay. So were you on your own doing magic when you met her?
Yes.
Okay. And did you meet her at a show?
No, this can go on a really long story, and I wish we had all day. But
me too. Right?
It's okay. Next time we'll go into depth about business and sales and all that other amazing stuff I want to talk about. But with the time we have now, and I'm glad I looked at the clock because I feel more comfortable. I met her at Applebee's, and she was sitting across from her sister who was dating one of my friends at the time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Everybody will go unnamed because of reasons in restaurants. And then she was sitting next to nobody, and I sat next to her, and I was talking to my friend, and we just hit it off, and
nice.
You know, and I didn't want to get married, but when I dated, we were first friends for a week. We talked on Skype.
Did you say a week before you got married?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just kidding.
No, it was a while.
Sure.
And we were talking on Skype every day, and we could talk about anything. And she was, way better than any other girl I've ever dated or ever met. And
nice. Very cool.
You can't.
So how did she feel about you running a magic business? She
supported it.
Awesome.
She didn't care. See, that's the amazing thing about my wife is she doesn't care about the amount of money I make. She just really doesn't. It blows my mind because I said, honey, I feel bad. I'm sorry. I cannot spend 24/7 with you and the kids all the time.
Sure.
Even though I want to, I have to grow a business. I have to make sales. I have to do phone calls.
Sure.
And she's just so supportive of that. And, there's always a balance. Even if there is an imbalance, you can try to work things out to make sure that there is a balance for that stuff. That's why a lot of times that there is, my kids are in my office hanging out sometimes with that.
No, that's the thing. Totally understand. You have how many kids do you have?
2.
2 kids. Okay.
Yeah. So we decided to have them now and not in our 40s.
Okay.
Which I hope is a good decision.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's just a team. I mean, so many people need to think of it not like a single mentality.
Sure.
It is a team. Husband and wife, baby and baby, out to go help, provide, inspire, and give value to the world.
Sure.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And everybody needs to know that, and everybody needs to capitalize on that and go harder.
Right. That's interesting you say that because sometimes, even myself included, I think of myself as a team and family, but in business, it's just nose to the grindstone. This is me kind of thing.
No, it's
that's fair. There's team.
It's
all around.
It's all a team. Business, everything.
That's
it
fair.
has to be.
Absolutely. Very well said.
And even though it's hard, you got to think of it that way. You have to at least think of it as this is us because we're all one.
Right.
As people, as a family, we go and amaze and inspire and give value to the world.
Right.
And what's great is to follow people who do that as well. Like I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, I follow Grant Cardone,
sure.
I follow Tony Robbins. I mean, all these people, they do the same thing, and it's so much about I'm going to give this value to the world, and I'm going to help people.
Sure.
Because for me, there's no fulfillment. I mean, I can have all the money in the world, I can have all the stuff, but it's not going to mean anything if I'm not fulfilled, if I'm not making a positive impact.
Right. Absolutely. Hugely. Totally agree. So let's downshift into business here.
Yes.
You've been in business for how long then?
Are you saying when I started doing shows or when I literally started restaurants?
Started actually getting paid, regardless of how.
5 years.
5 years. Okay.
I've been getting paid for 5 years.
All right. So you've learned a lot in 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
So what's the top 3 things you've learned?
There's no comparison.
Okay. Top 3 things.
Okay. So it's hard because there's a lot of things.
Top 20, right?
Well, first of all, is you need to ask for a lot more money than you think
all right.
you're worth.
Fair.
Another thing is you need to have the customer's interest first.
Tell me about that.
You need to think, where is their mind at?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they see me? How can I help them?
Okay.
Because that's how you're going to get the most business.
Mm-hmm.
Is how can you help them? Whether it's a business, a restaurant. Let's say you're somebody who's managing people's social media.
Sure.
Which I've also dabbled in a little bit.
Okay. But
how can I help them the most?
Okay.
With what I know, what my skills and talents are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How can we work together to have a win-win situation?
Sure.
For the magic and the business or restaurant, that's
right.
That's another one of the most important things.
Okay.
And the third one is to just practice. I mean, be good at your craft, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like be good at music, magic. I mean,
sure.
You really have to commit.
Sure.
You know, more than 100%. Because if you don't, then somebody else is going to take your place.
You can always find mundane, right?
Yeah.
It's tough to find professional tip top. But I imagine that's why you're so good at what you do, right?
Well, I'm just obsessed.
Sure. That's all right.
That's the only reason.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest thing. Is successful people are mostly successful. One big reason because when they're taking action, when they're doing stuff, when they're providing their talents, when they're providing their services, products,
sure.
When they're putting themselves out there and working really hard, that's where they feel most alive and that's where they can breathe.
Fair. Totally fair.
Okay?
Yeah, I love that.
And if they're not doing that, they feel depressed. But if they're out doing action and doing stuff,
right.
They feel happy. And that's why they're able to be successful.
Okay, that's fair. I wouldn't go so far as to say depressed because I think you got some other problems. But
no. When I'm not taking tons of action,
sure.
I feel like I'm not living. When I'm not living up to my potential, then I feel depressed.
So, you know, it's interesting you say that, right? Because my wife, her idea of a vacation is just camping out on the beach, going to a lake home or something like that. And just
that's cool.
Hanging out. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
I can sit still on the beach for maybe 5 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, let's go see the world.
Yeah.
Let's see how they do things here and just check out some food, whatever. I just want to see what I can see here. This is new and different place. I want to explore. And she's like, no, I just want to chill. I want to relax. So it's interesting that you say that, right? Because when I'm relaxing, I guess, as she puts it, I just don't feel as alive as when I'm exploring. So even though I'm moving and shaking, I am having more of a relaxing, entertaining time, a fulfilled time that way than she is, right? So different people, but it's interesting how the hustle is just the name of the game.
It is. And when you're thinking about relaxing, you know, I like to, you know, relaxing is great and you can, you know, focus on like perspective and how you can, you know, create the next day and all that stuff. But,
sure.
But action is the game, man.
Relaxing is for the ride home, right?
It's the only thing.
So
I relax when I sleep.
That's fair. Totally fair. So you've learned a lot in 5 years.
Yep.
What have been some of the biggest challenges that you've run into?
I mean, just knowing how to keep going when people say no.
Okay.
And it could be for any reason.
Sure.
It could be they don't think that the solution is right for their event or whatever.
Okay.
And it's just weird. I mean, of course you cannot sell everybody 100% on your incredible product or service.
No, not at all.
And the best part about getting the no's or the maybes or not right now
is
because you can come back.
Sure.
Later and tell them all the things that you've done and how you can help them. This goes back to knowing, you know, the customer is the most important. And when I get people, now this is actually the biggest roadblock for me when it comes to shows. Is people say shows and speeches and whatever.
Sure.
But mostly shows and speeches. They say, oh, that's, you know, it's a little expensive. I'm not sure if I.
Sure.
You know, we can't afford that with our budget right now. And,
sure.
And I agree with them. I say, yes, I agree with you. It is costly to have a professional, you know, entertainer.
Right.
But do you want powerful memories at your event?
Oh, there's a question.
You know?
No.
You don't? Well, you know, you can get like a cheap balloon artist or somebody.
Sure. Yep.
You know, that's fine. I know a friend of mine who can do it for like $75 if you want to.
Sure. Do you want
and
powerful
whatever?
memories?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's
I like that
true.
question. Well, the idea is that people ask on price when they don't know what they're getting, right?
Yeah.
If they don't understand and they don't want to look dumb, right? I don't understand what numbers or what information you're giving me, so I have to go on price because I understand dollars. I've spent money before. I've made money before, so people believe that they have a rough idea about numbers.
And you know, people have this like mentality is if, you know, it's crazy because a lot of people who, you know, spend a lot of money to invest in themselves or their business or whatever, the people who spend a lot, whether they make a lot or not, they're the ones who are more willing to hire me for the show and be really satisfied
Absolutely.
from my show. But the people who think that they're going to be rich from saving are going to lose. Yep. Because first of all, they're not going to have the experience.
Right.
They're going to be stressed out the whole way. And they're not going to be able to invest in themselves to reach the place that they really want to reach.
Sure.
And that's why I've been investing a lot, not only just through ads to grow my business,
right,
but also in attending conventions, conferences, these big growth events to help my business and to meet and network with new people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to a couple Tony Robbins events, and half the fun of that was the people that I met there. Regardless of the event itself was awesome, but the people that I met there, man, they were hustlers as well. So it was great just hanging around with them, getting the energy back and forth from them, and just learning from them. It was fantastic.
I know.
Because the type of people that go to events like that aren't the people hanging around watching TV all the time eating the Cheetos.
No.
Oh, they're the hustlers, man. Like, it's growth mindset, which is awesome.
And that's great to hear. And so for me, that's the thing. And then I tell them, you know, and I agree with them. My price is expensive.
Sure.
Because my price is equal to what I am worth.
Right.
And it's also equal to what people pay me every day. So when I go in there and I customize the show, I do all this extra stuff just for them and the company.
Sure.
When people see that, and it also helps when you have, like, you know, I performed on NBC 15, CW Channel, Harley Davidson, Oshkosh Defense, U.S. Cellular. And they hire me year after year because I exceed their expectations.
Right. That's the name of the game. That's awesome. That's super awesome. So, okay, you've been in business for a little over 5 years. You had some challenges. Life goes on. You shared some stuff. What have been some of the positive things that you've learned from business that you maybe didn't anticipate learning?
Well, the positive things are when you take action, no matter what action that is. And this is huge for the people listening because, you know, people come from all different families, places, mindsets, financial, whatever it is. But if you know that you can do something that you love, and even if you're already doing something that you love and you think you can make it a little bit better, the craziest part is if you keep going and trying, eventually you can actually achieve your goals, which is the craziest thing.
Right? Who knew?
But it's true. But you got to fully commit, and a lot of people don't fully commit.
Fantastic, right? We were just talking with one of my other guests about all the people that buy gym memberships but never actually go to the gym. So they just,
crazy.
They like the idea of it, but actually doing the work, maybe not so much, right? So they can say, oh, I'm a gym member, right? Yeah. So hopefully maybe someday I'll lose my weight or I'll get in shape or insert that goal here.
Someday never happens.
But right, absolutely. So they got the idea in their head, but the actual take the actions to actually fulfill their goal just isn't going to happen. You need more than a membership card to get in shape. So fair?
Yeah. It's like I'm gonna.
Sure.
Yeah. You're gonna what?
Yep.
You're gonna do it right now. And that's why I booked an event in August for I'm doing magic for a couple millionaires in California, and it's for a wedding. It's for a wedding. I'm not getting paid to do it. It's my cousin's wedding. Okay. Right. And I'm going out there because I love my cousin. I love everybody there. All right. And I want to connect with a couple of these, bigwigs that are going to be there.
Sure.
And huge respect. They've hustled so hard, and I want to, spend some time with them and see, and see how we can work out, the best outcome for both of us. And,
nice.
And honestly, if I wasn't going to do that, this is where the investment comes in. If I wasn't going to do that, I would have easily made a few grand on that Saturday.
Sure.
But I'm saying no, and I'm saying I'm going to California because she's only getting married once.
Right. There's opportunity cost there. Remember that time
opportunity
that Ryan
cost
said no?
is everything.
Right? That's the name of the game.
No. Opportunity cost is everything. I'm going to say yes to this one thing because I know it will pay dividends in the long run instead of saying no and going and doing something else because of the short-term gain. Everybody in sort of like in the younger, around my age or younger, they're like all into like the short-term money and the stuff.
Oh, it's immediate gratification, right?
Oh, I'm going to have a Rolex or I'm going to get a Lamborghini Aventador in the next couple of years. It's like, dude, but what does that matter? Do you want to roll up and get a girl with your Lamborghini? Like, come on.
Right.
What are you going to do? Why don't you take that money and actually invest it to grow bigger?
True.
People, they're so interested in the stuff when I'm more interested in, the game and actually going for it every single day.
Sure. The education,
making these calls, the education, the experience, and it's both.
Absolutely.
You got to educate yourself with business, with magic. You got to take the action. You have to create a moment that's really memorable to everybody.
Sure. So that's awesome. I like it. So what is the so you're going to California, you're doing it essentially pro bono. So what is going to be the trick that you do that's going to blow them away? Since they probably won't listen to this, they're in California. All right.
I have a couple things in mind.
All right. Do you want to share it? Just one?
Yeah. One of them is when their drink's empty, filling up their drink again.
Okay.
And another one is having them sign a card, and I throw it, and it appears on the other side of the window.
Oh, nice.
The top of the balcony there on the other side of it. That would be crazy.
Nice.
And then another one is doing a, let's say I borrow like most likely like $100 bill.
Sure.
And they sign it.
Okay.
And I'm able to take one of the seals, like one of the insignia stamps, and move it from one side of the bill to the other.
Oh, wow.
And it still has their signature on it. I mean, crazy stuff like that.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure specific, but those are a couple ideas.
Those are some ideas.
That's I have awesome. So far.
So you must have a repertoire of tricks that you do. There's certain ones for kids maybe, and then ones for middle, and then ones for maybe more sophisticated or older people that are like, wait, right? Where a kid...
corporate events are wine bottle vanish that comes back, and there's a card inside. There's a bowling ball appearance for corporate events as well.
Nice.
There's some fire eating. There's also, for the kid shows, there's like sponge bunnies, and there's a card inside of orange. There's linking rings.
Sure.
For school shows, I have this new suspension illusion where like the little girl is on top of these two seats, and I move one of the chairs away, and she's like floating there. And then she comes back down. And then it's just crazy. I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but you have to see the show. Yeah.
You're cool. So it just gives you an idea, or gives the listeners an idea of the volume of tricks that you know and the repertoire that you have. Because you have to entertain a pretty wide audience, right? I mean, a huge audience. It's not like the I'm trying to think of the guy that locks himself in the cage in New York for a few days.
Oh, David Blaine.
Yeah, and I'm like, a 5-year-old would look at that and be like, "What? This is kind of boring. Why are we watching this?" Right? So where an older person would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's interesting."
You got to be careful because kids are pretty smart nowadays.
Okay, fair.
And for me, I understand that, and I'm able to create an effect where they're literally like, "Whoa!" Like I do one effect where I have, just for kids, and then I'll go into the crazier stuff.
Sure.
I blow bubbles out into the audience, and then I start to catch the bubbles, and they turn into spheres of glass.
Nice, super cool.
In midair, yeah.
So one thing,
kids go crazy.
Oh, I bet. Adults would probably go crazy.
Oh,
too.
they will. That's why I say when you're seeing the kids show, you're also going to freak out too.
Sure. So one of the things that I've always wondered with magicians
is to turn $5 bills into 50s.
Yeah,
because I also do that.
Right? Continually.
Because I also do that. Yes.
So anytime that you quote somebody a few $100, they're like, "Here's 20 in 5s," and you're like, "Oh, we're good," right?
Yeah.
So I got a quick question about the tricks themselves. Mm-hmm. So you learned card tricks, you watched the DVDs when you were younger and stuff like that. There comes a point where you can probably start creating
yes.
magic on your own, right?
Yes,
and you create the ideas.
Yeah,
and how to implement
just
them.
how I create the ideas for. And even when companies don't want to see magic and they hire me for a speech, I mean, I do a speech about doing what you love every single day, and I also do a speech about time and attention, and then I do a third speech about sales.
Sure.
Which is, you know, all of them completely different.
Sure.
And I use those ideas to create, you know, the different points that I want to use with magic. So I use some magic effects in with the speech to not only keep them engaged and amazed, but to make sure that I bring that point, you know, 150% forward so they understand how they can apply it in their lives. When I create magic, though, it has to come with, maybe it's something I saw, or maybe it's something that I'm thinking about, or if I know that it will take like a week to develop, or maybe a couple years to develop.
All right.
Like the filling up somebody's drink took me a couple years to put together.
All right.
And having an effect where there's a sealed deck and I open it up and there's one card flipped over the card that you thought of took maybe a couple weeks to create.
Nice.
So it's whether it's, you know, it's done overnight, it's a new sleight and a new principle that I developed, or it's something bigger than that.
All right.
I mean, it could be any amount of time.
Sure.
As you know, David Copperfield took like, you know, who knows, like 10 years to develop some big effects.
Oh, I bet.
And not everybody knows that it gets more and more expensive the crazier it gets.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Like making a car vanish or appear, or being on a motorcycle, or let's say there's a vending machine, right?
Sure.
And you have somebody on the street, you know, what do you want from the vending machine? And then you take a newspaper and then you reach your hand through the glass and you pull it out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There's so many different things.
Sure. That's awesome. So it just
there's an effect that I did at the Christmas Mountain with their, you know, at the sales building, I get paid to do magic for people at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Like 3 or 4 days a week.
Not just wake them up, right?
Yeah, I just wake them up. I make them happy. They go in the timeshare presentation. I have nothing to do with the timeshare stuff.
Sure.
I'm just there to make them happy.
Right.
And it's really cool because there was this Skittles container where you put a quarter and you get a few Skittles, whatever.
Right.
And I said to one of the guests, I said, you thought of a card. And I said, you see it in the deck. And I threw it and I said, you see how, and it melted through. And I said, it's inside of the Skittles dispenser.
Sure.
And they just lost it. They lost their mind. It was...
Oh, funny.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
That was the card.
So how long does stuff like that take for you to figure out and learn and get together to the point that you're confident it'll work?
Well, now I'm more confident than I was, you know, a few years ago.
Okay. But I imagine with every new trick, there's going to be a learning curve, right?
There is. And, you know, there's only really 7 different kinds of tricks you can do.
Okay.
There is, of course, mentalism, where you know what they're thinking somehow without you seeing anything. That's really, really inspiring. And I've done that a couple times on stage with like a book memorization, or they're thinking about a person that I don't know what person they're thinking of, and it's like written on my arm. Or it has to do with a transformation.
Okay.
Like it changes, or sometimes it goes from one place and disappears to another place. That's impossible.
Sure.
Or maybe that, you know, the card penetrates through the deck and comes to the top.
Okay.
Another one is to there's a lot of there's an appearance, like the deck appears, the deck disappears. I mean, there's not that many effects in Magic, but the ways that you can customize them and the ways that you can make them different are, you know, there are thousands of variations of different magic effects,
I bet.
If not millions.
I bet. That's why people keep seeing magic shows, right?
But the most important thing is, what effect do you want to create?
Okay.
And write it down and think about what it would be the most amazing thing that you can use with a story to customize this certain effect that you want to do.
Sure. Okay. So with the story, you'll get the crowd mesmerized and interested and paying attention. Okay. Sure. Stories, get some emotion driven or driving. That's awesome. So we have a few minutes left here. I want to ask you quick, because I ask everybody, right?
Yes.
Tell us about your decision-making process, and what are some secrets that you've learned in regards to decision-making over the course of 5 years, or realistically your entire life?
Making decisions is really important. To make decisions quickly is hard, but you have to do it.
Fair.
I mean, even if it's like, okay, all these things are happening, I have to do something, you know, make a decision it doesn't matter. Do something. Speed is the game. You got to move forward. Even if you're moving forward in the wrong thing, at least you're moving forward.
Right.
And once you keep that mentality and you keep going, making decisions, with your gut instinct,
right,
whatever that may be, when your actions can actually lead to inspiration, that lead to motivation, that lead to future actions,
sure,
you can actually inspire yourself even with your own failures.
Sure. Perfect. So what have been some things that have helped you over the course of business that you didn't expect to help you or you didn't see coming? Has there been something where it's just like a door got open that you didn't realize was going to open or something of that nature?
Yeah, that happens when you take action.
Okay, nice. True, very true.
Doors get open when you take action, even when it's a failure and you go on and on to do it again.
Sure.
People need to just try stuff. Mm-hmm. And people need to stop thinking and pondering and start doing things.
All right.
And the more they start doing things, the more they start to. It's like my kids. I don't know everything that my kids are going to do, but I'm learning, and I am able to help in every situation that they're in.
Sure.
And they're a question mark most of the time.
Oh, I bet. And they don't come with instruction
manuals. No, they don't.
Right?
And I love them so much, and also is business too. You just got to try so many different things and be ready for anything that comes along.
Sure.
Stay true to yourself, be positive, and, collaborate with other people that, love what you're doing or that is in your space.
Sure.
And talk about how you can, help each other.
Sure.
But one thing that's really important is to just keep going and love it.
Awesome.
And love the process.
Right.
And know that the destination that you get to is only one thing. Once you get there, it's like, okay, what's the next destination?
Sure.
And there's only, one big thing that I want to leave people with while they're listening to this.
Absolutely.
Is progress. When you're making progress, that is happiness.
Fair. Totally fair.
Progress is happiness.
Totally fair.
Even if it's the smallest progress, it doesn't matter.
As soon as you stop growing, you start dying.
That's right.
Name of the game.
Yeah.
Name of the game. So, I got a couple more questions for you. I'm trying to think of the best ones to get through here.
Real quick, don't worry.
Employees? Do you have employees, or do you ever anticipate
I will
having
next year.
employees?
I will next year.
Nice.
Yes.
To help you out with shows and stuff like that?
Yeah. I have a couple agents, but they're not working as much as I want them to be.
Okay.
That's fine. And
that's a thing.
That's a thing. And I plan on hiring a couple people, first including my brother, which helps me with all my video work.
Oh, very cool.
My brother is great
very
at
cool.
video work, editing, everything. If I was to say my brother is like on a scale from 1 to 10 with editing, 10 being the best editor in the world, I would say he's at least an 8.7.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And for me, I'm like a 7.
Super cool. All right. Better than you. That's better.
He is. He's great. And he videos me when I go to shows sometimes and speeches. And that's really, really important to have that. But I'm also going to hire people strictly on commission to book shows for me. Now, the best part about this is they're going to have companies meet with me for a couple minutes to show them what I do. And then they're going to hire me for whatever they want me to.
Very cool.
So they're going to be the bridge to the meeting.
Gotcha.
Making multiple phone calls, whether it's they leave a message for the entertainment guy or the president, they call someone else. That's why next year I'm going to start to have employees, because I want to make this bigger. So too many people make a mistake of keeping their business small.
Absolutely.
When ultimately, when you think about a business and you think what you can actually do for the world, it has to be enormous. You have to start thinking big.
You were talking to the author of the Bold Business Book, baby, so I got you. Boom, right there. That's awesome.
Awesome.
So definitely, I was going to ask you what's ahead in the next 5 years. So it's clearly growth.
More celebrities, bigger shows, bigger theater shows.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So you mentioned social media. So I want to touch on this because that's a thing, right? So you are on social media quite a bit?
Yes.
All right. So tell us about your social media channels. Where can people find you?
My social media, whether that be YouTube, Instagram. My website is Ryan Martin Magic.
All right. And Martin is Martin?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So RyanMartinMagic.com.
Yep.
Cool. And they can find you on Facebook.
Yep.
YouTube, do you have videos of you doing tricks?
Yes. I have a video of me doing magic for Mace, for Ray Lewis.
Oh, nice.
It's crazy. That Super Bowl weekend was just ridiculous.
Oh, that's super cool.
I'll never forget it. Yeah, it was a big opportunity.
That's super cool. So business has been growing. You're headed the right direction. You got your mindset in the right place.
Yes.
And it sounds like you're helping others get the mindset in the right place,
it's all customized.
It only makes the world better, so that's cool.
And in terms of for people listening to grow your social media following, it takes not only a lot of effort, but you need to know what you're doing.
Sure.
Okay, first of all, are you providing content that people actually want to see, listen, watch? Do they want that? Yes or no? And if it's yes, you need to message other people who have way larger followings than you and be like, I'm just starting out, or even if you're already been in the business for a long time, talk about how you can help them and if they can give you awareness. And
find the moving train, right?
And if the moving train, if you guys work something out, that's great. Or if you're able to pay just a little bit of money to get that awareness, that's fine. But this is for people if they literally are like, man, I feel like crap. I only have, 1,000 followers or 500 or whatever. Massive action using hashtags.
That'll get it done.
Lots of time. That'll get it done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, we can guarantee you that the listeners of this will be more than happy to follow you on social media. Because
thank you.
I know I love the stuff that you got going on. It's cool to see.
You want to be amazed and inspired. This is what I want to give.
Right? Nobody wants to be depressed with cat videos all the time, right? All right. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Coming to you from the Sun Prairie Community Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kateman, business coach at Draw In Customers Business Coaching and author of the Bold Business Book, available on Amazon. We'd like to thank you, our listeners, and our guest, Ryan Martin of Ryan Martin Magic. Ryan, thanks for being with us. Find us airing on 103.5 Wednesdays at 6 p.m., Sundays at 2 p.m., as well as at the sunprairiemediacenter.com.
And you only live once, so take advantage of it.
That's right. Do it, baby. Do it. We can also be found morning, noon, and night at the podcast link on drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week. I want you to stay awesome and, of course, enjoy the process.